Today I am discussing the poem Because I Could Not Stop for Death. This is a very powerful poem written by Emily Dickinson. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We walked, we slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children drove, a recess in the ring. We passed the field of gazing rain. We passed the setting sun, or rather, he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill, for only gossamer my crown, my gown, my tippet only two. We passed before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then, 'tis century and yet feels shorter than the day I first summarized the horses' heads. We were toward eternity. So, if you see, because I could not stop for death. The speaker is saying, I have no time to die. And she is sharing her experience. We were going in a carriage. We are moving slowly. Death and immortality are personified in this poem. Death and immortality is introduced. Death, kind and gentle, is shown in this poem. And she tells, the speaker tells, we passed the school where the children were playing, and it was the time of recess, and then we passed before a house, a swelling of the ground. It's mean the speaker is talking about the grave. She is talking about grave. So the above line have been very powerful. Because I could not stop death tells Emily Dickinson theme of death. The poet presents death not as abstraction but a concrete reality. Here death is personified as a lover. Death is not the end because life is continued after death. Death is unavoidable. And Because I could not stop for death by Emily Dickinson, the poetess presents the picture of carriage driven by death. Death is presented as a lover. And she had no idea of death, the point of time. Death took the poetess for a ride, and she also gave up all the labor and leisure. They refer to the continuity of life after death also. The speaker is saying, Emily Dickinson is saying, there is a life after death also. Uh, there is continuity of life after death. They describe the passage of the chariot, which is gradually heading toward eternity. Death is personified as a lover, and the poetess as the victim of death. They had hardly completed their day's work yet, but death comes and stops there, and they started their journey. It is an imaginary journey, and before her childhood, youth, old age, the poetess has realization of this kind of. Thus, the sad lines point to the journey of immortality. Because I could not stop for death by Emily Dickinson is known for its spiritual colorings. It shows the extension of life after death. It ultimately paves the way for immortality. The setting sun is very suggestive symbol of approaching old age. Setting sun, if you see, read the poem. The setting sun is very suggestive symbol of approaching old age. So I think this is a very powerful poem and you should read this poem. We pause before a house. In this line, the poetess is describing death. The poetess introduces her concept of immortality in this spiritual poem. She further shows that life is continued after death. Death frees man from earthly life and carries him into eternity. So, this is a very powerful poem, and you should read this poem because I could not stop for death. This is a very powerful poem written by Emily Dickinson. Thank you.